Well, I want to say welcome to this year's installment of where the money's going to be flowing and where the money's going to be flowing from. I mean, because, when it comes to stock prices, the one thing we should all understand, or we talk about gold or commodities, currencies, real estate, all we're really doing is forecasting where money is going to flow. I mean, if more money flows in than out, you get higher prices. Flows out than in, you get lower prices. So all we're all doing is looking at specific pieces of information and deciding what is capital's response going to be. I mean, this year we're going to be asked to decide what's going to happen, what's capital going to do in response to the Brexit negotiations, or the lack of them. Is there a no deal? What deal it is? The elections for the European Parliament, which I suspect is going to elect even more anti-EU personnel. What's the market going to say? What's the market's response to the increasing pension crisis, especially at the city and state level? What about the emerging market debt? Remember in Turkey last August, we saw interest rates just absolutely skyrocket until they got a bailout of $10 billion. But the markets react to that stuff. What about China-US trade dispute? I mean, there's absolutely no shortage of big events that capital is going to have to respond to. And what we've been telling you on Money Talks, by the way, for years is that response is going to be faster than ever. And if you think last year was volatile, and I always say that, wait till next year. But that's the environment we're in, is how fast things change, how people's psychology, opinions, how fast information goes, and hence the different markets react quickly. I mean, gosh, look at the stock market last November and December. I mean, these are monster moves. Last year, by the way, at this conference, we stated that the market had changed from this sort of buy the index, you can buy anything, to no, it's a stock picker's market. Because it's just not going to make much progress over the course of the year. And boy, did you do well coming here, listening to Paul Beattie, listening to Ryan Irvine, who picked some terrific stocks. And then the correction arrived. I mean, later on today, we're going to hear from Martin Armstrong, whose model correctly predicted the high in the NASDAQ in August, the S&P in September, then in October, he said the Dow would top out, then warned about a significant decline in a panic cycle. Presto, 3,000 points down, but the thing that blew me away, his model said, don't panic, December 26th is the bottom. That's pretty good. Well, I'll be asking him what's next. And I also want to congratulate everybody for being here, because you're the ones who have a chance to not only survive, but also thrive what's coming next. I mean, most people don't bother. I mean, I get to work in this stuff all the time, and I'm always amazed at how disinterested most of the public is on this. And I always come back to my favorite quote on that, which is J.P. Morgan. He says, you can ignore economics, finance, politics. The scary part is they don't ignore you. And I don't think it's ever been more obvious. I mean, whether anyone was paying attention or not, we have record amount of debt, and we're now going to cost us more because interest rates have gone up. If you were one of the 50 or 60,000 people trying to get in the real estate market for the first time, didn't matter if you were paying attention or not, they put in a stress test, and hence they're not in the markets at this point. Doesn't matter if you're paying attention to finance in Vancouver, Regina, Edmonton, doesn't matter, because if you're trying to get a mortgage or renewing yours in the $400,000 range, it's cost you $3,000 more a year than it did just 18, 19 months ago. It doesn't matter if we're paying attention, it all impacts us. Boy, what about this? Doesn't matter if you're paying attention to the news, your Canada Pension Plan premiums went up this year for the first time in 6 more years after. Whether you're paying attention or not to municipal politics, which a lot of people don't, doesn't matter, your property taxes went up. It's going to grab another 4 or 5 percentage points from your paycheck. Rents go up too. People don't seem to understand that because those costs get passed along. If you live in BC, you pay MSP premiums. Well, most people thought, no, that was ended for individuals. No, it's not this year. You pay the MSP premium, and your employer does. It's a great double dip from the government. You're also going to be paying more in the carbon tax because it's no longer revenue neutral. So all of these things impact us. In Alberta, the majority of things will still cost you more, not everything. They have some exemptions, not in British Columbia. Hey, we can all look forward to a Netflix or other streaming video tax coming probably sooner or later. Doesn't matter if we're paying attention or not. The point is, governments want more of your money. They took a record amount this year, and there's more coming. For the one thing, by the way, I just even say that, and I sort of get nervous because I've learned over the years that a lot of people just get upset at the hint of politics. And I had a great example of this. It was just before Christmas, and all I did was read a story. And I didn't actually comment on the story. I just read it. It was when Prime Minister Trudeau had one of his aides visit the Catholic Church just before Christmas. in Ottawa. He told the Cardinal that the Prime Minister was going to come. I'll summarize this. He'd be attending the next Mass, so he asked if the Cardinal would point out Mr. Trudeau to the congregations and maybe say a few words, and maybe including calling him a saint. Well, according to the news, the Cardinal said, no, I don't really like the guy. I mean, there's a lot of issues that he's in conflict with the Catholic Church over. And Trudeau's aide said, look, I'm going to write a check here and now for a donation of $10,000 to your church if you just tell the congregation that you see Mr. Trudeau as a saint. The Cardinal said, my gosh, we actually really need the money. We've got a couple of programs that are wanting right now, so fair enough. As he promised, at the start of the next sermon, the Cardinal pointed out that Mr. Trudeau was present. The Cardinal went on to say things like, well, Prime Minister Trudeau's presence is probably an honor to a lot of people. This man is not numbered among my personal favorites. I mean, I find him petty and self-absorbed, find him a hypocrite. He inherited money, married money, and he uses some of that wealth to deceive the Canadian public. And I think he's got a reputation for shirking his responsibilities both in Ottawa and the rest of Canada. The man simply can't be trusted. But he concluded by saying, but you know what? Compared to his father, that guy's a saint. Now, look, government assault on our wealth is just one of the things we've got to adjust to. I mean, there's so many things we're being asked to monitor, so many different reasons that capital flows. I mean, I'm big on technology. I spent a ton of time reading about technology because it's changing everything. I remember saying at this conference about 6-7 years ago that from my point of view, every business was about to become about technology, not just so-called technology companies. See, this past week in China, they 3D printed the world's biggest 3D printed bridge, 86 feet long, 11 feet wide, and it printed in just over 18 days. I mean, what a change. One of my favorite examples from it's actually just in January, but it dealt with 20 corporate lawyers specializing in corporate law and contract review. So they got pitted against an artificial intelligence software called LawGeeks in a contest to spot mistakes in 5 non-disclosure agreements. That's what they use legally to keep people from divulging sensitive information and stuff. So this is the result. The LawGeeks artificial intelligence had an average accuracy rate of 94%. The lawyers had 85%. But here's the deal. The lawyers took on average 92 minutes to do the task. LawGeeks took 26 seconds. It was literally 100 times faster than the fastest lawyer in that thing. So many other things. It was 8 years ago that I started talking about the demise of the European welfare state. People thought I was nuts, but how about now? With Brexit, Angela Merkel stepping down, yellow vests in France, the electoral success of anti-EU governments everywhere. I'm not sure how many people really want to bet against that anymore. But the EU as we know it is over. And we're just watching it unravel. And that's going to be a key to having money moving out of Europe into North America. And people will be confused, the same way they were about Vancouver real estate. We spent about 6 years hearing that it's way above people's income and all of those other measures. And I kept saying, well, no, that's not what's moving the upper end of this market. It's money coming from elsewhere with other concerns, usually safety. In the U.S., you got Donald Trump not only being elected, by the way, but he's obviously taken over the Republican Party now. The Clinton establishment Democrats are fighting out with Bernie Sanders, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, socialists for party control. My point is that looking beyond our borders is, I think, the key for understanding what's really going on. Money's going to leave jurisdictions when things get uncertain in search of safety. And the first choice has been the United States for 10 years, which is a big reason why their stock and currencies went up so much. And Canada's a recipient too. But when I look around, I realize the problem for most of us, even coming here, and I'm so glad you are, but we want a level of certainty that doesn't actually exist in the world. That's what we really want. Tell me exactly what to do. No questions asked. Well, there are a lot of questions out there. There's a lot of things we can do to raise our probability of success, and that's what we're trying to do at the conference. But you know what? Not many of us are comfortable with that rate of change, like I mentioned with the LawGeeks AI and so many other examples. I've had more than one person tell me when they realize and I sort of explain what's going on with sovereign debt and maybe a pension crisis and all this, and they say things like, I hope I'm dead before that all explodes on us. And I said, well, I got to admit, when I heard this just literally a week ago, I said, you better be careful what you wish for. A friend of mine, he owns a major ticket broking business. And he actually went to one of the great things about his business, he gets to go to these fabulous sporting events. I'm sure he's at the Super Bowl this weekend, but just 2 weeks ago, he was at the Patriot-Chiefs playoff game. He said he had a seat right in the 50-yard line, and when he got his seat, he noticed it was right beside him was empty. He leaned over, asked the neighbor if somebody was going to be sitting there, and he knows that guy. The guy says the seat's definitely empty. He said, that's incredible. Who in their right mind would miss this game? It's the game of the year. I could have sold this for like $5,000. Well, the neighbor says, well, actually, the seat belongs to me. I was supposed to come with my wife, but she passed away. And this is the first Chiefs playoff game that we've missed since, well, my gosh, we got married 50 years ago. My friend said, look, I'm so sorry to hear about that. That's terrible, but I mean, couldn't you have found someone else, maybe a friend, a relative, even a neighbor to come with you? And the guy said, no, they're all at her funeral. You know, in a short while, I'm going to bring on one of the top oil and gas analysts in North America, Joseph Schachter, and I'm looking forward to this because he thinks we're on the verge of sort of a once-in-a-decade opportunity. Tomorrow, Ryan Irvine, Aaron Dunn are going to introduce this year's World Outlook Small Cap Portfolio. And they're a tough act to follow, I'll tell you, given that every year since we've been doing this, it's been double-digit returns. I want to hear Paul Beattie again. I'm really excited about that. He gave me 3 great ideas. I bought them last year and did exceptionally well with them. And I'm thrilled that Lance Roberts has made his really the long haul from Houston. So glad that he's with us here. So much to talk about, whether it's interest rates, the U.S. situation, all the things that are impacting our market and what we should do about it. And Ozzy's back, and I'm looking forward to hearing where he thinks money to be made. And you got to remember this. It was about 2 years ago. He said very clearly that he was expecting a 20% correction in the market. We certainly had this, so I want to know, thanks to the tax and the regulation, the stress test, et cetera, and I want to know what he thinks is coming next. And I'm so happy that Don Vilo is with us again. I love his data, where if you've got an idea, he can tell you historically, is this the right time of year to buy it? Like this huge historical record. And it's just, again, one more arrow in our quiver. I also want to, by the way, encourage you to not only take advantage of our personal finance workshops, but go and talk to some of these people. And we got a huge array of financial professionals and analysts. And remember to go say hello to Victor Adair and Rob Levy's here from Money Talks. And get your personal finance questions answered. That could be the best part of this.